8th grade, they showed for our history class Roots. And I remember being there and feeling like completely mortified that the Kunta Kinte scene when he was getting beaten, because so many people in the class, mostly boys, looked back at me and kind of, I know they were laughing. Greencastle is still a small town. It is all white for the most part. It was definitely all white in the 80s and 90s. I remember once sitting at the lunch table, and somebody, maybe two or three people down from me, telling a joke that was, riddled with the N word. And I remember the joke finishing, and then everybody after the joke was done turning and looking at me like three people down from them. And I don't know if I ever felt physically at risk, but I know I felt verbally and socially at risk. I feared them really, doing what they did, which is to kind of use the N word around me, try to make me feel really what I knew they thought of black people, which was less than, dangerous. I could draw attention to myself for being smart, right? And bad would be not being smart, getting bad grades, being loud, being hyper, anything, just any kind of negativity that one could draw. Never challenging people, so when people would tell jokes with the N word, I wouldn't say, "Hey, you need to stop, that makes me feel uncomfortable," or, "Why did you do that?" I would never confront anybody, because to confront somebody would be to invite more aggression. All of those experiences kind of highlight for me what is a trauma generally of middle school and high school, and wanting to be accepted by your peers, and knowing that there was always this thing that would keep them, or like if I drew attention to my difference, or if my difference was drawn attention to, that I would be shunned or isolated. So that kind of anxiety and fear was always kind of present for me. So one year there was a Klan rally in my town. Grandfather, who pretty much looks white but isn't, identifies as black, and my brother, who's darker skinned than I. My brother and my grandfather, just by happenstance, ended up downtown during the Klan rally, and because they were getting haircuts. And I remember when my brother came back, he told me sort of how scared he was. He was only 8 or 9. When they had to drive through the town square, and he just describes kind of sinking down in the chair, in the front seat, to avoid being seen by the Klan. And it's a really formative, like, to me, that's one of the things that marks this town to me, that there could be, in the late 80s, early 90s, a Klan rally in town seems absurd. My grandmother gave me the not very useful advice to never be a sharecropper. I didn't realize until recently, when I asked my uncle, it was because her father was a sharecropper. The other advice that they gave me is just to really work hard, to be the best that I could be, to always excel. And they were definitely of that mindset that if you did your best, that nobody would be able to undermine you. It's unrealistic, because it presumes that, people are discriminated against because they're not working hard enough, or they're not smart enough, or there's some deficiency in them. But I think that they understood you were always working against the presumption of deficiency, and the only way to remedy deficiency was through excellence and excelling.